Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researchers Celebrity. And today we have Dr. Whitefield, Daniel Barrett Whitefield, with us as our researcher celebrity. Welcome, Daniel, and thanks for taking time out.
Sure.
Yeah,
I
so
think it'll be fun.
yes, looking forward to that. So the first standard question how we ask is when and how you wanted or you decided to be a researcher.
Um, I think I kind of always knew that I wanted to do research. Um, Probably since at least high school. I think the type of research that I wanted to do has changed, sort of just based on whatever fell into my lap.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think I pretty much have known that I wanted to be doing some sort of research or at least like engineering design or something
Mhm.
pretty much since junior high or high school.
Wow. That
Uh,
is commendable. So, as you mentioned that it in your junior school or high school already you knew that you wanted to be a researcher. What you think were the factors at that point of time which made you think that?
I just always liked learning stuff
Mhm.
and making stuff that worked.
Mhm.
So, um, I mean, when I was real young, there were toys that I wanted that I couldn't quite afford, so I just make my own. Like
Wow.
I had some GI Joes, and I wanted a Jeep, but the Jeep
Mhm.
for the GI Joes was expensive,
Mhm.
so I got a shoebox and
Mhm.
some spray paint and made my own Jeep.
Nice. Nice.
Uh, and always liked stuff like Legos, so I knew
Mhm.
I wanted to build stuff. So my first thought about what I wanted to do was more engineering and like robotics,
Mhm.
um, which was probably heavily influenced by watching Star Wars
Mhm.
and wanting to build a Luke Skywalker hand.
Mhm.
Um, and then uh, when I got into college, took some more biology courses,
Mhm.
learned about viruses, and thought that they were pretty interesting,
Yes.
and got more interested in biology,
Mhm.
and wanted to do some virology.
Mhm.
So I did a little bit of that when I was working on my PhD,
Mhm.
but most of my PhD was about DNA damage.
Mhm.
So I found a virus that just completely remodeled the nucleus and all the chromatin,
Mhm.
so I could do both.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then I just kind of fell into mosquitoes because that's what was available, and had uh, was tied to the DNA damage that I knew,
Mhm.
but mostly it was available, and so I kind of fell into it, and I've really enjoyed it, and it's great.
Nice. So, starting from GI Joes, Jeeps, Star Wars, now mosquitoes, a brief of virus and DNA damage repair. This journey, which probably what I mentioned is like less than 5 seconds, but it was almost a decade of journey of researcher. How you liked this journey?
Oh, it's been a blast.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked it.
Uh-huh. So, seems like you are very passionate about your research.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whenever the experiments doesn't go through the way you want, this passion fumbles or it is sturdy.
Uh, the passion is sturdy.
Mhm.
My self-confidence maybe fumbles, but
Mhm.
yeah, the passion, like it's still fun because I mean that's just science. Things don't go the way you want them to sometimes.
Mhm.
Sometimes you get results that are unexpected, and that sometimes that's the fun stuff because you got to
Yes.
figure out why you got results that you didn't expect.
Mhm.
The disheartening stuff is when you just don't get results at all.
Mhm.
And so you got to figure out what you
Mhm.
did wrong procedurally or why it's not working, which
Mhm.
is uh, less fun than figuring out why something was surprising.
Okay.
But
So your any incidents in your PhD or your present research which you think you can share, where you have experienced the three different versions of yourself when you are so confident in the first one, in the second one you start questioning yourself, and in the third phase where you feel like you don't know what is going on.
So that the last one is the most common,
Mm-hmm.
and then the second one, and then
Mhm.
the first one.
Okay.
So I think just I guess learning new things,
Mhm.
like especially when I started in this lab and had to learn basically everything
Mhm.
about mosquitoes
Mm-hmm.
for the first several months.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I don't know what's going on, but
Mhm.
I'm learning a lot and I'm figuring out more what's going on.
Mhm.
And every time I felt like I learned something new, I would bounce it off somebody more experienced, and they'd be like, "Well, not quite. It's a little bit more complicated than that."
Okay.
And so then I would learn more, and then I'd
Mhm.
feel like I had a handle of it,
Mhm.
and then I'd talk to somebody more experienced, and they'd be, "Well,
Mhm.
not quite yet."
Okay.
And then the not feeling confident, I think when I first started grad school, that was hitting hard.
Mhm.
And I think I had never really felt the imposter syndrome until I got to grad school.
Mhm.
And so it was like a new thing to me.
Mhm.
And then it wasn't very long into grad school that I realized that that's such a common thing that they have a name for it,
Mhm.
imposter syndrome. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, well, if they've named it, then everybody feels like this.
Yes.
And so I'm not really alone. And so maybe things are going all right.
Mhm. Nice.
And so that took the edge off, but I was still, mostly feeling like an imposter until I got my first paper published.
Mhm.
And when I first got published, I was like, okay, well, if I get past peer review,
Mhm.
maybe I'm not an imposter.
Nice.
Maybe I can actually do this.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, getting a paper published, being even a middle author on another
Mhm.
paper,
Mhm.
and then especially at the end of the defense,
Mhm.
where they say, "Congratulations, Dr. Whitefield." Then
Mhm.
those are the few times that I'm like, okay, all right,
Yes.
maybe I can do this. And then I guess more recently, doing a whole bunch of experiments,
Mhm.
making a lot of mistakes,
Mhm.
learning a lot, and then finally getting to a point where I can say, all right, this is data that actually answers, that addresses the hypothesis
Mhm.
and gives us an idea of whether what we're doing is, well-founded or not.
Mhm.
Then I was like, okay, maybe I can learn a completely new thing about all these mosquitoes and actually get good data. I need to get a lot more, but
Yes.
I think I have the beginning of some good data. So
Nice.
that's a confidence booster. But then I dissect midguts and try to stain them, and it
Mhm.
doesn't work. And so then I'm like, well, back to square one. I don't know what's going on.
So that is one thing. So here I would try to tell all of our viewers, research is, it can be upside down or or straight. It can be from what is going on to you are confident that you know what is going on. So this is the entire journey of research. From point A, you don't know anything, what is going on, or the same point can be like you came with a hypothesis and nothing is working now. So that's when you start dissecting why it is not working that way. So anywhere you are, always feel you are on the right path. It is just your attitude which decides where you are, aggressing toward your life. So, Daniel, when everything works, everyone, publish papers, they enjoy, happy, it is the brighter side of the research.
Yeah.
When nothing works, people get stressed, some sadly, but true that they move out of their PhDs, and people go even further. When you were, did you experience anything like this when you were doing your PhD?
Like think about quitting
Mhm.
or just not doing science anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. I kind of made the decision that I would stick with it until they kicked me out.
Wow.
So I would, be feeling like maybe I'm not cut out for it, or maybe the imposter syndrome isn't imposter syndrome, and I really am an imposter.
Mm-hmm.
But that would usually ramp up right before some big milestone, like my proposal presentation or the thesis defense, and so I'd maybe be feeling less confident, but
Mhm.
I just decided, well, I'll let them just decide.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'll give my proposal presentation, and
Mhm.
if they hate it and they're like, this guy is not
Mm-hmm.
a real scientist, then I'll just let them say, you're not a real scientist and you should find other work. And so, yeah, I didn't really think about quitting, but I definitely feared, not passing the test a few
Okay.
times. So,
Mm-hmm. But you were committed that you are not giving it up,
yeah.
whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Nice. So this is another thing when you are committing yourself for either PhD or say research in person. Once you decide, take all the time before deciding that you want to be in research. But once you think you made up your mind, then there is no looking back. Once a researcher, always a researcher. That's what I say, and that's what I feel. And I believe that I share the same emotion with most of the researchers who I work. So, Daniel, when you went with this idea that you want to do a PhD, and how long was that?
How long was the PhD?
Yeah.
Or how long was the decision process?
Both.
Well, so I think when I first decided to do a PhD, I was still in undergrad, and I pretty much knew that I wanted to go all the way through and get a PhD. And so I applied to several different places, and I applied to some master's programs and some
Mhm.
PhD programs.
Mm-hmm.
And the place where I actually got accepted, it was a master's program.
Okay.
And so that made the decision of PhD sooner or later.
Mm-hmm.
So it was later since I got into a master's program. But after a few months working with my advisor in the master's program, with the PI in that lab, she asked me if I wanted to do a PhD in her lab. And the institution that I was at, the master's students paid tuition and took classes and did some research. But I mean, the main part of that is they pay tuition.
Yes.
And so I had to take out loans for that. But when she offered me the PhD, at that institution, the PhD students get paid, and the department covers their tuition. And so I already knew that I wanted to do a PhD, and I was going to eventually. And so if I could stop paying tuition and start getting paid, then it was a pretty easy decision.
Yes.
So I think I called a few professors from my undergrad to talk to them. But that was mostly just to not rush into a decision.
Yes.
I pretty much already made the decision that I was
Mhm.
going to do the PhD, but I wanted to talk to some people and get some advice before I committed to the decision. But there wasn't a whole lot of change in my mind. I was like,
Yes.
either get paid and get a PhD, or go into debt and only get a master's. And so it was a pretty easy decision.
Yeah. So here, one thing which you just said, that when you were consulting with your previous professors, so obviously money was not the question. What were you discussing your future lab, your mentor, your supervisor, and the research area you were working on? Did you
Yeah,
discuss all
that
of that?
was. I mean, the money was a no-brainer, and
Yes.
so the discussion was like, all right, is this a person that you can work with? Do you get along with them? Do you like the research? Um, do you think you can, succeed? And yeah, so the decision wasn't based on the money. The money was the easy part of the decision.
Yes.
The advice was for, is this a good fit?
Yes.
Do you enjoy the research? And yeah.
Yeah. So the audience, always pay attention that money is very important. Yes, we cannot deny that, and nobody can deny it. Research is not that lucrative in terms of money. It has limitation. I won't say that it is one of the bad ones. It is actually above average. You can get enough to take care of your family or pursue your dreams, follow your hobbies, everything. The most important part, if you want to go for a PhD, give the due diligence it takes. It requires a certain amount of commitment, which I believe needs time for yourself. With you can discuss this with your family, friends, professors, whatever, wherever you can get the advice and the discussions. Keep that going, because this is what prepares you. Sometimes you think that you are committed enough, or sometimes you think that you can face all the failures, but that's not true. And when you realize it on a later date, that's when it harms the most. The best thing is prepare yourself, go out to your peers, discuss the possibilities of what you are getting into, listen to them, and obviously the world is yours, the path is yours. Daniel, coming back to starting a PhD and finishing it, or we can say just committing to a PhD and then just completing it, accomplishment. Now you are Dr. Whitefield, which obviously is a big thing to hear after your thesis defense. One good thing which you enjoyed the most in your PhD?
That I enjoyed the most. I think maybe the camaraderie in the lab. I had some good friends in the lab, and just being able to talk to people that were having the same struggles or the same doubts, but then also just being able to see their research and see their successes and how they learn new things, and got good data and discovered whole new things. And then I think one of the most poignant, or like there was a point where I felt like I learned a lesson, and coming back to the imposter syndrome. I had a friend in the lab, and we're both PhD students, and we started about the same time and we ended about the same time. And so I would watch his presentations in group meeting, and I would always think, man, Kirill has such good presentations. His data looks so good. He, sounds like a real scientist when he's given his group meeting presentations, and mine, the data looks less good, and I sound more like an amateur, and like this is just a hobby, and I'm not a professional. And, but then I would give a presentation, and he'd tell me it's really good. I wish my data looked that good, and I wish I gave as good a presentations as you. And so we're basically feeling the same thing about each other, and like thinking that the other one had better presentations and better looking data. And so that seemed to just encapsulate imposter syndrome, as a bunch of scientists in the room being intimidated by each other, but they're all like good scientists, but none of them think that they are. So,
Nice.
yeah.
That is very well, and I think this is one of the part of psychology, how people goes and says also that the grass is always green on the other side, and that's normal.
Yeah.
And so here, audiences, all the researchers are super normal human beings. Okay, they are. So Daniel, when you were finishing your PhD, because when doing undergrads and masters, one thing which you knew was like, okay, you want to do a PhD, but now you are done with your PhD. What were the thoughts before? Obviously, because after till your thesis defense, you are just focused onto that, and after that, because then the world stands still. You are done. You are a doctor now. What then?
I wanted to get back to Texas.
Okay.
So I'm originally from Odessa, which is in West Texas, and then I did my PhD in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I always say Pittsburgh is a cool place to visit. And I was ready to not live there anymore. And I wanted to come back home to Texas. So my two criteria for looking for a job after I finished my PhD has something vaguely to do with DNA damage and what I spent 6 years getting my PhD working on, and is in Texas.
Yes.
which is kind of that's how I fell into mosquitoes, not having any experience at all with entomology or mosquitoes or anything. I found a lab in Texas that needed somebody that knew DNA damage, and it just happened to be working with mosquitoes also, and
Nice.
so I learned something new and have enjoyed all of it.
Yeah, very good.
The people that I work with, the research that I'm doing, the town that we live in now.
Nice.
Yeah.
So this is one thing which I try and tell all of our viewers, that making a decision after PhD, you should consider everything. Daniel was very clear. He want to go to family. Texas is this first thing, okay? And then including, he doesn't want to just give up on the knowledge which he has built up for 6 years. So always consider everything before making a plan that what you want to do post PhD. Because sometimes what happens is some people just go for money, and because most of the time they just change the countries also, and then there is a cultural shock, some people are homesick. So just think about everything here also, because you have to make choices all the time, every single day, entire life. You cannot just wake up one day and then you don't have any choices to make. You always have to make a choice. So make your choices, take your time, and then make them not to regret later, because that is also part of life happens. You have to be ready to accept either the regrets or the decisions or the success which you get. So Daniel, when you're back home, enjoying your research, friends, families, how the research now blends into, because for the PhD it was a target to achieve something. Now the degree is done. Now in an independent researcher, as an independent researcher, how do you see yourself pursuing for future?
I guess my short-term research goal is just to learn enough about mosquitoes and learn enough about my project that I can get something published. Which I guess that's always the short-term goal, is publish your next research. But I think long-term goals, I might be interested in teaching or having my own lab at some point. I could also see just sticking with research and just being a researcher and not like climbing the ladder further, just getting better at like my niche, I guess. But I think before I think about like the next step, I want to make sure that I've taken a solid first step and get like my first like postdoctoral paper published, and then then once that's published, then I can kind of like, okay, I've shown that I can operate at this level. Like,
Yes.
like, do I want to stay at this level? Do I want
Mhm.
to have my own lab? Do I want
Mhm.
to teach? Do I want to go into industry? Do I want to
Mhm.
stay in academia? Yeah, all of that. So I guess I'm kind of avoiding making
Decisions at
the
this point of
decision
time?
about like my long-term goals until I've got at least, you know, the first step in
Mhm.
my short-term goals met.
Mhm.
But um,
No, I think
what was
this is this is a
did
good
that
point.
answer the
Yes,
question?
yes.
I
I
don't
believe
know
this
if
is
I
a good
rambled,
one.
but
No, this
yeah.
was good one because that is exactly what I was just we were having this conversation that it is always good to give yourself time to make decisions,
Hmm.
and you are doing that, enjoying the research as of now.
Mhm.
How about the role of friends and family in research? How your friends and your family contribute for you being a good researcher?
I mean, definitely encouragement,
Mhm.
and uh, just well, if things aren't going well, if I'm not getting data
Mhm.
or something,
Mhm.
then you know my friends and family are always there to encourage me and uh, say that no, you're smart and like you
Mhm.
know all of this uh, and so yeah, encouragement and then also just being able to get away from work and just
Mhm.
relax and forget about uh, whatever thing in the lab is not working or
Okay.
whatever mosquitoes died that I wish didn't die
Mhm.
yet.
That is very important.
Yeah, just being able to get away and just let my brain relax
Mhm.
for a bit. Yeah.
So,
So
if I have to ask you that your suggestion for the researchers at different levels, like pre-PhD, post-PhD, what do they need to sacrifice their family and friend time for their research?
no.
Okay. The answer is straight no.
That's a simple. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh,
But apparently, sometimes because of the nature of research, people are for bioinformaticians. For if there is no wet lab work involved, it is easy to do because then you can work remotely. But for the people who work on their bench, isn't it very at times it takes a toll that you have to decide that sometimes you have to get away with your research and sometimes with the family and friends, and then whenever you feel these things, how easy or how tough is that to make a call at that point of time?
uh, like if I have some procedure, some protocol that I'm working through,
Mhm.
it's going to take several hours.
Yes.
But
Days in
there
say
was
cases.
maybe some get together planned,
Mhm.
and so I got to choose between finishing the protocol and going
Yes.
to whatever meetup. Um, I mean, I usually default to going to
Mhm.
hang out with people.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I'll usually find a step where you know you can put it in the refrigerator, put it in PBS, or
Mhm.
you know do do whatever thing to sort of put the protocol on pause.
Mhm.
But I mean, I think the main sort of rule that I use to decide is uh, like you're a person first,
Mhm.
and a researcher is
Mhm.
just your job.
Yes.
And so, like if you're not enjoying your life and you're not, you know, being around the people that you love, then
Mhm.
like why are you doing research?
Mhm.
Like the I mean the research is, you know, maybe it's to make money or maybe it's to make the world a better place or something, but why do you why do you want to make money if you're not
Mhm.
gonna, share time with people? Like
Mhm.
either spend money on food when you're hanging out with people,
Mhm.
or spend money on people, like
Mhm.
maybe buying stuff for your kids or
Mhm.
your wife or girlfriend or whatever. Like why do you need money if you're not gonna like use it to be around people that you
Mhm.
love? Why do you want to make the world a better place in sort of an abstract way with your research when like you could make the world a better place by spending time with people that you love?
Mhm.
So anyway, I try to keep, long story short, is I try to keep work to the normal work day,
Mhm.
and when I'm off work, then
Mhm.
I'm off work.
Mhm. No, I think that is a
And
very great way to
yeah,
pursue any research. Any research it can be.
yeah,
That is very good one. A disclaimer: you can keep all your research going on in your head while enjoying your time with the family also. Some people does that, and in fact, few of the most brilliant ideas comes when they are spending time with their family or friends, because that's when it's like, yeah, I think this experiment can be done this way, and that's how it works. So something which was not working for weeks or months now suddenly started working, and that is what qualifies research as a 24/7 job. So you can have dreams of it, you can come out of anything
yeah.
at any point of time. But one thing which is more important, as Daniel said, you are a person first, you are a researcher as in second, and anything after that is the third one. So if you are enjoying your life, you will be a better researcher, you will succeed in whatever you are trying to do. In one word, or in two words if I have to say, you have to be compassionate about your research and yet detached with it. So if something is not working, that should not take you to the sink. You can take your breaks, go through all the details that what went wrong and why, and then just compile yourself again and then start working on, because this is how it works. There is no other way in this world. As far as I know research, there is no researcher who never have failed an experiment, and the vice versa. There is not a single researcher who was always successful. So this is a perfect blend of it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. Now it is up to you how you build your story with that. Daniel, when you talk about your research and its the impact of it on human health, is that the first thing which you think about your research, or it is something because, as you said, you were an innovative kid, you wanted to do things, you wanted to build, and now because you are not a kid anymore, now you are thinking of making world a better place and contributing through controlling diseases and all those. When you see all these changes in yourself, how do you see a researcher growing?
Um, I think I sort of I still sort of thought about both at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was going through the interview process,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned about the research. Like, uh, I mean, I didn't know as much then as I know now about
Mm-hmm.
stuff like malaria and all of that, but I knew that malaria was a big deal. I didn't understand how big of a deal it was until
Mm-hmm.
I got into the actual research, but uh, I knew that malaria and dengue and Zika and all the mosquito diseases were
Mm-hmm.
a big deal. Um, but so it was very immediately obvious that like working on controlling mosquito populations
Mm-hmm.
would help a lot of people
Yes.
like throughout the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was apparent very early
Mm-hmm.
in the interviewing and kind of the doing my homework and like looking at what the lab's actually
Mm-hmm.
doing. Uh, but then also just looking at the actual science and the engineering of how that was going on, I was like, oh, this is just like all the little moving parts of the research. So going back to like, I just want to like build things and do
Nice.
whatever. That was also something that I noticed very early on. That I was
Nice.
like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Very
That might be fun.
It is
And
indeed.
so yeah, the big picture and the the big picture, like making the world a better place, but also the zoomed in microscopic view of like, oh, if we do this and we do that and like
Nice.
Stuff to really like get your hands dirty on. That both of them together was I can't really say which came first. It was sort of just reading the overview of what the lab does. Like both of those things were obvious and interesting. So
Great. So now we are towards the end of our conversation. One thought about all the researchers being celebrities. What are your thoughts about it?
yeah,
They are?
yeah,
So okay, we agree on this
Yeah.
because I have to struggle a lot with for having these conversations. Researchers don't believe that they are celebrities. And one of the most important motive behind having researcher celebrity is every single researcher is a celebrity. And today we found our perfect celebrity who is a researcher and believe every researcher is a celebrity. Thank you, Daniel, for sharing your journey, experiences with us. Now at the end of this almost at the end of the conversation, what are the key points if you have to suggest a person who are thinking that they want to be in research? Any backpacking tips?
Any tips? Just do it. If it's not for you, it'll be obvious.
Lovely.
And if it is for you, then you'll just keep going.
Nice.
And,
Nice.
Yeah, I don't. That's a terrible tip. Just do it.
No, I think that is the
I
perfect
think,
tip.
I mean, read more papers than I do. I guess that's real. That's real advice. Read more papers than I do. I don't.
Oh, that is.
I think
everyone.
everybody doesn't read as many papers as they should.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
so
So researchers, just do it. That is what Daniel has to say. Just
is
do
that
it.
copyrighted?
I
Just-
yeah, I was about to thinking that is this
Just make it happen
absolutely
to avoid copy claims.
Yeah. So it's like just make it happen. You pursue your dream. If you believe in yourself, your research will support you. That is one thing which I have done for myself, and I have seen success stories, and Daniel is one of them. And what we as in researcher celebrity does is like you can discuss anything. If you want to reach out our researcher celebrities, you can contact directly to them. If you want to use the platform of Empowering Science Foundation, you can write it to us and then we can connect it to you. But only thing is like just make it happen. Do it the way you want it. Spread your wings, just fly. Research. If you believe it is for you, it is for you. As Daniel said, it might kick you out. That's when you realize that okay, probably it's not for you. But without giving that try, never stop. There is no one except you who can stop you being a researcher. And even if you are not in research, that doesn't mean that you are not a researcher. We have met researchers in field which way beyond research, because once they were researcher and because of circumstances, they are not pursuing it, but they are always researcher. So with this, we would like to say thanks to Daniel
Thanks for having me.
for coming and sharing the journey with us. We look forward for your good research in future, and we say all the viewers that feel free if you want to write to Daniel directly or you want to write to us. Thank you very much, and we will see you in another episode of Researchers Celebrating. Thank you.